there is always a risk that comes with creating a car chase for the screen. Calculated, and with more regulations than ever before. When a serious injury or tragic end to someone's life occurs while on the film or TV set, it reminds people just how dangerous these vehicular stunts can be. MFP presents 10 fatal car chase accidents on screen. With stuntman turned director Hal Needham still riding his wave of success from 1977's Smokey and the Bandit, his follow-up The Cannonball Run, which was a comedy adaptation of the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash, would once again bring back Hal's friend Burt Reynolds as lead. Along with a star-studded cast, Cannonball Run featured some of the most amazing sports cars of the time. One car in particular was that of the 1964 Aston Martin DB5, made famous in the Sean Connery James Bond series. Though this time round it would accompany Roger Moore in his only on-screen appearance with the DB5, as he is seen playing a parody of himself, as a person inspired to alter his appearance to resemble Roger Moore the movie star and live a James Bond type persona. Part of this gag required Moore's version of himself to be accompanied by a slew of attractive women, who were mostly voiced by famed voice legend June Foray. One scene in particular required the vehicle to evade authorities giving chase. What was supposed to be a low-risk stunt saw stuntwoman Heidi Von Beltz fill in for another stuntwoman who was unavailable for that day. Having played small acting roles in TV shows such as Charlie's Angels, Von Beltz had worked with Hal Needham before as a stunt performer on Smokey and the Bandit 2. One of the issues of the stunt was the stand-in DB5 was ill-equipped for the production, which was said did not even have a passenger seatbelt for Von Beltz. When the stunt did not go according to plan, with the DB5 colliding with a red and white 1975 Ford Club wagon at high speed, Heidi Von Beltz suffered major trauma and was rushed to hospital, where it was later revealed she had suffered severe spinal injuries, which left her as a quadriplegic for the remainder of her life. Von Beltz would file a lawsuit and was awarded $4.5 million in compensation. She would eventually pass away on October 28, 2015 at the age of 60. Already remembered for the loss of Australian actor Heath Ledger, who died soon after production had wrapped, The Dark Knight, which was the second installment to the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, had previously suffered another loss on set. In a chase sequence that would see the updated Batmobile, now referred to as the Tumbler, which was a custom-made vehicle designed for the film, drive through the streets of Gotham, a special effects stunt technician was killed while riding in the back seat of a Nissan 4x4 as he leaned out of his window to film the sequence for the production. While operating the camera and having succeeded his first practice run, Conway Wycliffe was unaware of the situation that was about to take place, as the Nissan, driven by special effects technician Bruce Monroe Armstrong, lost control while attempting to make and miss a 90-degree turn, which as a result ended with the 4x4 hitting a tree at 20 miles per hour. Although it was seen as a glancing blow, the crew had thought the chase had ended as planned until they saw Armstrong running back to stunt supervisors, explaining how Wycliffe had been injured. Upon arriving to the crash site, Conway was in a bad way, as the crew rushed to save his life, seeing how his head had been crushed between the tree and the vehicle he was being driven in. Dying from his injuries on September 24, 2007, with the scene taking place in Surrey, England, the 41-year-old technician, who was originally from New Zealand, had been reported to have removed his seatbelt as he was leaning out of the vehicle, as the incident was deemed as a tragic accident by the investigation team on the set of a film that was later seen as a cursed project. Coming off the tail end of the 1970s and becoming a staple of 80s television, the Dukes of Hazzard had become world known for its fun southern antics and the car action stunts and huge jumps that could only have come out of that era in Hollywood, as displayed by the muscle car classic 1969 Dodge Charger, affectionately referred to as the General Lee. It was these stunts and their basis in being practical that led to some dangerous moments for the cast and crew on set. However, it was on one fateful day, on June 18, 1980, just one day before his 32nd birthday, that led to the untimely death of assistant cameraman Rodney Mitchell. According to actor John Schneider, who played one of the leading cast members of the characters of Bo Duke on the show, the accident that had occurred on June 18th was not one of the most dangerous stunts planned for the show, but a much simpler performance of driving needed, a reoccurring theme when it comes to fatal accidents on film sets, as it is more often than not the easier stunts that lead to the most deadly of accidents. When a camera vehicle loaded with multiple crew members was following the General Lee, as a scene was being filmed in Lake Sherwood, California, It was said that the country dirt roads had seen rain the previous day, leaving the gravel with less traction, which led to the camera truck flipping on the bend of a corner. The crash resulted in 12 crew members being injured, but costing the life of Rodney Mitchell, who was not supposed to be on set that day, but showed up as a favor to fill in for an absent crew member. A film that required numerous car crashes on camera to take place, 1986's The Wraith, starring Charlie Sheen, saw a phantom-like figure return from the dead to seek vengeance upon those who took his life via the assistance of some interdimensional beings, according to the behind-the-scenes info. This saw Sheen's character of Jamie Hankins given a one-of-a-kind turbo interceptor in the form of a prototype Dodge M4S pace car carrying a 4-cylinder 2.4-litre engine with over 400 horsepower that could produce a top speed of 194.5 miles per hour. Production needed to make several replicas of the car in order to see it demolished and put back together as part of the character of the Wraith's MO, which would seem racist killers, only to drive ahead and block the road to cause a collision. It was this idea that unfortunately led to crew members being injured and the death of second unit camera operator Bruce Ingram, who while filming one of the chase scenes on the winding Arizona mountain roads in what was said to be an overloaded production truck which crashed, leading to the fatal accident as crew members were sent flying off into different directions across the Rocky Plains. With 8 crew members involved in the crash, it was unfortunately one of those 8 who did not survive the accident. Although a rescue team was brought in and Ingram was airlifted to hospital, he would eventually succumb to his injuries, and it was this death that placed a great shadow over the production, as The Wraith did not gain the success the producers had hoped for. However, it was able to gain greater status as a certified cult classic, and the film would be dedicated to Bruce's memory. With the introduction of the 10BA in the Australian film industry, which meant huge tax breaks for movies in the early 1980s, films such as Midnight Spares were created as a number of producers got into the industry hoping to turn a quick buck off an easy idea. It was this concept that led to some dangerous stunts to be put on celluloid in Australia, and a tragic end to one camera operator's life. Released in 1983, Midnight Spares tells the story of a young up-and-coming race driver named Steve, played by James Laurie, who returns home to his father's garage to find he is missing, and his family business is under constant pressure to shut down or join a car theft racket led by a local crime syndicate and corrupt police. Wanting to show off and highlight the then popular at the time sprint car racing in Australia, director Quentin Masters wanted to use these cars as part of the backdrop of the story, as he had the main protagonist be a top competitor within the sport. This involved the filming of a real-life race at the famous and now demolished Parramatta City Raceway. With the scene shot for real at speed at the racing circuit, it was focus puller David Brostoff who was operating the stationary camera when his life was cut short. It had been stated when an accident took place during filming, one of the sprint cars which was heading in the direction of Brostoff had lost control and tumbled towards him. Due to strict regulations, the stunt crew themselves were not allowed to race these cars, and only official drivers were permitted. Adding to this issue, it was later revealed that one of the actual drivers who was given permission to drive that day had substituted his part with his son, who was the driver that lost control and caused the accident to take place. However, what had also contributed was in Brostoff's actions in leaving the safety of his protected location as he ran away, which also led to his untimely death as he was struck and killed on impact. As a result of this accident, new stricter regulations on film sets were implemented in Australia, forever changing its industry.
Luck isn't a superpower.
And certainly not very cinematic.
Yes, it is.
Let's meet in the middle and say no, it isn't.
With the first film being a huge success, Deadpool 2 was a no-brainer of an idea to follow up with. With comic book action films becoming more and more extravagant and a huge revenue for movie studios, large-scale action sequences are at the forefront of each new installment. With Ryan Reynolds making his mark in the first Deadpool film, based on the wisecracking merc-with-the-mouth, four-wall-breaking anti-hero comic book character, the second installment was set to bring in more characters from the Marvel Universe, introducing mutant mercenary Domino, played by German-American actress Zazie Beetz, who is portrayed as having luck be her superpower. The scene was set to show off this gift in a mobile prison break on the streets of Vancouver, where Domino would be seen involved in the chase of an armoured truck riding a Ducati 939 Hyperstrada. With a stunt performed by motorbike rider turned stuntwoman Joy Harris, who had gained recognition as self-proclaimed the first licensed African-American female motorbike road racer who would make a stuntwoman debut on Deadpool 2. It had been claimed by some that although there were other female stuntwomen with more experience ready to take on the task, There was a need to maintain consistency in the racial background of the character as played by Zazie Beetz, to avoid any potential backlash in any racial misrepresentation. It was this situation that led to Joy being selected and trained to perform the stunts required. After completing the stunt successfully in 4 previous practice runs, it was the 5th take as cameras were now rolling, which proved to be fatal, as Joy had somehow lost control and hit a street curb as she was thrown from a bike and flung through a plate glass window. Part of the reason for the accident was suspected that Joy, although an experienced motorcycle race rider, had not been used to a motorbike with such a large engine capacity. Unfortunately, Joy died before she could be rushed to hospital as a result of her injuries, and the sequence was ultimately scrapped from the film. The 1998 French hit that became a European cult classic, Taxi, was followed up 2 years later with its sequel, simply titled Taxi 2. With actor Sami Nasseri returning as Daniele Morales, the most extreme taxi driver this side of Paris, along with his police inspector associate friend, who take on the Japanese Yakuza this time around. It would only be natural this one-of-a-kind smash hit would try and outdo itself in this 2000 return to the franchise. Bringing back most of the original cast and crew, it would be camera operator Alain Dutiert who would fall victim to the horrific accident that would cost him his life. With action and car chases turned up to 11 this time around for the French action comedy film, the previous film established the star car of the story, that of a white 1996 Peugeot 406, being a heavily customized and transformable street racer in disguise. It would now be updated to a 1999 model, this time sprouting wings and a fighter jet control stick, as it would be used for short distance flying in several scenes. It was this situation that led to a crash that took place on August 16, 1999, when famed French stunt master and James Bond stuntman alum Rémy Julien, who was 69 at the time, choreographed the Peugeot stunt in flight mode, as the car was supposed to exit and jump the Porte Dauphine tunnel and fly over 3 army tanks and land in a pile of carton boxes, yet overshot its mark and collided with Alain and his assistant Jean-Michel Barr, who had both his legs crushed as a result of the accident. Alain unfortunately would later pass away due to his own injuries, with famed director-producer Luc Besson's company, Europacorp, fined €60,000 to give to Dutiert's family, and stunt coordinator Rémy Julien given a 6-month suspended jail sentence for the accident. Alain was 41 years old at the time. It's not always the stunt itself that can be the cause of concern, but what can also happen soon after. In the case of 1978's High Riders, which saw a stunt that required to see a 1957 Ford F-Series pickup veer off a bridge and land into a river below. This was a situation where the stunt itself came off without a hitch, but what happened next was unforeseeable. With High Riders being a story of illegal street racing and high-powered V8s, such as a classic 1968 Dodge Charger and Pontiac Firebirds, along with Mercury Cougars on the country roads of California, there is plenty of car action for any classic muscle car aficionado. Evolving into a story about a local town who has had enough with these free-living street races, the car action would soon turn violent, as angry locals would hunt down and take out these races after a local youth loses his life in an accident. One scene saw the aforementioned 57 F-Series give chase along the country backroads, only to see a spectacular jump leading to the landing in a pool of water at Paramount Ranch in Agoura, California. The scene would see stunt driver Vic Rivers, who had taken part in many cult classic car chase movies of that time, such as Thunder and Lightning, Ron Howard's Grand Theft Auto, Corvette Summer, and even Roger Moore's first James Bond outing in Live and Let Die. Taking the lead as stunt coordinator this time round, the stunt went off successfully as shown in the film. However, after landing his truck in the water, Vic exited the vehicle, where he was then soon seen passing out, collapsing into the small body of water, and drowned before help could get to him on time. Vic Rivers died on July 8, 1977, at the young age of 29 years old.
How would you like $4 million?
$4 million? Yeah, $4 million. Yeah, I'm all ears.
Following the footsteps of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, $1 Million Mystery is a forgotten 80s treasure hunt movie that brought in a group of wacky characters in search of $4 million, as directed by once renowned director Richard Fleischer, who would later be remembered for directing the Arnold Schwarzenegger lead Conan the Destroyer and Red Sonja films. It was in this film that legendary stuntman Dar Robinson, who was considered one of the best fallers in the industry, who would leap from amazing heights to come up with some of the most death-defying scenes on film, would meet his untimely death. Known for creating the decelerator cable, which allowed him to perform falls from great heights by slowing him down just before impact, Robinson had already completed his scenes in the 1987 smash hit Lethal Weapon, which director Richard Donner dedicated to his memory, before Dahr went on to perform several motorbike stunts for Million Dollar Mystery. While performing a motorcycle chase sequence for the film, which saw some frantic riding take place, Robinson had lost control and was thrown from his bike, a 1986 Honda XL 600R, as he and several others were approaching a sharp curve at around 50 miles per hour. The result saw Dahr separated from his bike, catapulting down an embankment, hitting a ledge, and being impaled onto a tree branch. He would be rushed to hospital by a highway patrol helicopter, yet would succumb to his injuries soon after. Dahr Alan Robinson passed away on the 21st of November 1986. He was 39 years old.
Toby Halicki of Gardena is dead tonight after a stunt went off prematurely on the set of the movie he was filming.
Following up on his most successful film, director H.B. Halicki would make a sequel to his cult classic with Gone in 60 Seconds 2, where he would unfortunately fall victim to a tragic accident on set. Already known for taking extreme risks in his films, as showcased in his original low-budget 1974 hit Gone in 60 Seconds, always wanting to up the stakes in car action and carnage with each new film he would direct, Halicki took on many of the stunts himself. While filming a scene in Buffalo, New York, where it was required to see a tractor-trailer truck ramming into several cars before colliding with the water tower, Halicki was driving the big rig, and the water tower rigged to fall, fell prematurely, snapping a cable that hit a telephone pole that impacted with Halicki. With his brother on site providing CPR to try and save his life, it had proven to be too late, where Halicki would soon after be taken away by paramedics and rushed to hospital, but had succumbed to his injuries. What little footage was directed by Halicki would years later by his widow be presented as a short film in 2003, following the remake of the original Gone in 60 Seconds in the 2000 Nicolas Cage film. H.B. Halicki died on August 20th, 1989 at the age of 48, but his films to this day remain as some of the greatest examples of movie car action in cinema history.